Hello, BookTube. So this is the fourth big wall bookcase, the third shelf, and the eighth and final part. It's religious books with one history book at the end. So let's start off. So the first two books are my master's thesis, Yaroslav Pelikan, The Christian Intellectual in the Arts. So that's the title page. And move right along to Sailors in the Holy Land, 1848, The American Expedition to the Dead Sea and the Search for Sodom and Gomorrah by Andrew C.A. Jean-Paul. This one was Naval Institute Press, Annapolis, Maryland, 2005. Let me see here. Ordered to fix the exact elevation of the Dead Sea and to collect mineral specimens, the expedition was the Navy's first and last to the storied Salt Lake of the Old Testament. Its leader, Lieutenant William F. Lynch, was once a coolly scientific and devoutly religious man who hoped to find the ruins of Sodom and Gomorrah and substantiate the account of their destruction by the book of Genesis. So it's a U.S. Navy expedition. It's illustrated. Sort of a fascinating story. And then there's the author, if I can get him. Let's see here. Now we move on to John Dominic Crossan, who we've seen before when we did the book on the 7 days of the Holy Week. This is Jesus, a Revolutionary Biography, a startling account of what we can know about the life of Jesus. And this was, let's see here, Harper, San Francisco. And this is 1989. So a biography of Jesus. Then the person I wrote my thesis about, Yaroslav Pelikan, The Excellent Empire, the Fall of Rome and the Triumph of the Church. Let's see. Harper and Row Publishers, San Francisco. Let's see. First edition, 1987. This is Ross and Bush Lectures, new series number 1. And it basically focuses on Gibbons and the history of the decline and fall of the Roman Empire. And Pelikan was excellent at doing that. He did a book on Bach Among the Theologians, I think it was called, and one on Faust. I don't have any of those anymore. So I did it one time. This next book is also by Yaroslav Pelikan. It's actually 2 books in one. Jesus Through the Century and Mary's Through the Centuries. With a new preface by the author. This was a History Book Club, New York. See, Jesus Through the Centuries came out in 85. Mary Through the Centuries came out in 96. Both were Yale University Press originally. And this is a combined edition, which I would recommend. Some idea of the illustrations. In this edition, those first illustrations weren't so great, but the ones in the Mary volume are absolutely magnificent. So, some excitement out there with the trucks. These next couple volumes were published by a professor who was both a professor of my father's and of mine. This is the New Testament Mythology by Burton H. Throckmorton, or Throcky as we used to call him. And this was under the influence of Bultmann and all that school from Germany. So this was published by Philadelphia, the Westminster Press. And let's see if we have 1952 was actually the, that doesn't seem right, 1959 I think. So it's signed by Ansley Cole Throckmorton was Bert's wife, and then Bert, and it was signed in 1959. $4.50. So that's great. And then he also did something that my copy isn't roughed up. You can still find these around. These are Gospel Parallels, a synopsis of the first three Gospels, edited by Burton H. Throckmorton. Thomas Nelson Incorporated, Nashville, Camden, and New York. Eighth printing of the third edition, 1967, originally from 49. So Gospel Parallels, a synopsis of the first three Gospels with alternative readings from the manuscripts and non-canonical parallels. Text uses a revised standard version of 52. The arrangement follows the Hooke-Leitzman synopsis, 9th edition, 1936, edited by Burton H. Throckmorton. So what you do, I'm going to find a good example. So 77, the test of goodness. You'd have Matthew, Luke, and then you're comparing the entries. So here's Matthew, Mark, and Luke with the same details. See where they changed, borrowed from each other. You can learn a lot by looking at them. So if that sort of thing interests you. And then again by Burton H. Throckmorton, Jesus Christ, the message of the Gospels, the hope of the church. And this was Westminster John Knox Press, Louisville, Kentucky. This came out in 1998, with an inscription. And he talks here, I mentioned earlier, that the first book was influenced by Bultmann. And that influence obviously continued. The Hermeneutics of Rudolf Bultmann. Myth, Symbol, and Dominion of God, Gospel Sources and Texts. Then, a place I've been fascinated by. This is Mount Athos, Renewal in Paradise, Yale. There's the end papers. By Graham Speake, Yale University Press, New Haven in London. 2002. Beautifully illustrated. So this is about the monasteries on Mount Athos in Greece. They hang to the cliffs there. So if you're interested in that sort of thing, it's sort of a nice book. Because of the paper, the pages are a little tough to handle. And then, another Yale book, H. Richard Niebuhr, Theology, History, and Culture. Edited by William Stacy Johnson, forward by Richard R. Niebuhr. Yale University Press, New Haven and London, and that would have been 1996. This book brings together the best of unpublished works of H. Richard Niebuhr, one of the outstanding American religious thinkers of this century, which would have been the last century. The collection includes lectures, sermons, and essays, some of which Niebuhr delivered at major universities to general audiences, and others that he prepared for circulation and discussion among colleagues at Yale's and elsewhere. Collection of writings. Then, excitement. Summary of proceedings of the 68th and 67th Annual American Theological Library Association. But you get good library articles, so I won't make anybody suffer through these. So that actually does it. My pile got pretty high there for the religious books. And then the last book on the shelf, because of space, will lead us into the fourth shelf once we start that project. But because of space, it's on the third shelf, and it's the final volume on that shelf, and it's this big old thing. Arnold Toynbee, A Study of History, the first abridged one-volume edition, illustrated. And it was a large edition, unabridged, and I don't have it. I've had volumes of it before. And beautiful book. Let's see, Weather Vane Books, New York. 1972. I had to translate the Roman numerals there. So, a fun thing to look through. The Study of History by Arnold Toynbee. This is surely the most important historical work produced in this century. It was originally a 12-volume book. So it was important. I don't know if it was the most important, but maybe somebody out there has an opinion. So that was the 8th part of the third shelf, the 8th and final part of the third shelf of the 4th bookcase, the Big Wall bookcase, and was, except for this last volume, was religion. And thank you, BookTube.